You saw the title? Georgia is obviously the number one team in college football. But whoa, Ryan? Wait, hold on. Hold on a second. Well, that doesn't make any sense because a couple weeks ago, you came on here talking and crazy about how Ohio State has the best roster in college football. Well, I still do think that. I do think that when you look at it top to bottom, Georgia's is right there. It's not a big drop off, but the top end talent is pretty scary when you just look at it on paper. Keyword on paper, right? But this Ohio State team essentially is adding Judkins, taking away Marvin Harrison, adding Judkins, adding Downs, adding Will Howard, who I don't think is some big upgrade over Callum McCord. And also, not a guarantee to be their starter. I do believe they're in a quarterback battle right now between Howard, Julian Sayin, and Devin Brown, most likely going to be Will Howard. And if it's not him, I'd probably put my cards or my chips, whatever, for Devin Brown. I don't think Julian Sayin, a true freshman, will win that job. But besides the point, I think that Georgia does have the best team in college football, even if they don't have the best roster from a talent standpoint. And it's crazy because I do think Georgia's roster has been clearly the best the last couple of years. I don't think you can easily say that when you just look at the names, right? I already named the two that put them over the top with Judkins and Downs that they got in the transfer portal. But I'm going to rattle off a lot of reasons why I think Georgia is the best team in college football, why it's obvious, and why when those polls come out, and why am I even talking about this? Why am I entertaining the conversation? Because when the polls start coming out over the next few months and all these rankings come out, there's a good chance Ohio State ends up being ranked number one heading into this season just because of the hype and because of everything. The transfer portal, all the money that they spent, Jeremiah Smith, he looks really good. Oh, is Jeremiah Smith better than Marvin Harrison Jr.? Oh my gosh, right? That's the kind of stuff that's going on during the offseason. And yes, Jeremiah Smith does look really good. And yes, those Ohio State receivers are legit. They are better than Georgia's receivers. Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate. I'm blanking on another guy's name. Emeka Egbuka. They've got studs. They've got guys that are going to be stars in the NFL one day, if you ask me. Right? Is Dylan Bell that? Is Dominic Lovett that? Is Kobe Young that? I don't know. But combined, when you look at this Georgia roster, you look at what we've seen over spring between these two teams, my money's on Georgia. And I do think that they're the best team in college football. So let's just start rattling off these reasons. Ryan Curley from Dawg Post. I could rattle off all sorts of reasons why you should sign up for a Dawg Post newsletter, but I'm not going to waste too much of your time with that. The best reason that I'm going to give you is that it's free and it's in the description of this video down below. Make sure you're clicking on that and getting signed up. Thank you to those who are already signed up. It's the best way for us to stay connected and keep you guys plugged in with everything going on with the Georgia football. It's draft season. I'm recording this right before the draft starts. This should be going out on Friday morning. And Georgia's losing, right? This is a part of the conversation that I wanted to get to, and I'm glad that I transitioned into being smooth. Georgia's going to lose Brock Bowers, Marius Mims, Lai McConkey. They're losing some really good players. More good players than I think Ohio State's losing. Because Ohio State's really, for the most part, just losing Marvin Harrison Jr., who was a gigantic part of their offense last year. He was a security blanket for Cal McCord. That hurts them way more than Brock Bowers leaving hurts Georgia. And yeah, you can twist that to me saying that Brock Bowers is not as valuable as Marvin Harrison Jr., that he wasn't as valuable to Georgia as Marvin was to Ohio State. And there's not really a way to actually have an answer. They were both super valuable to their teams, right? And that's just a stupid conversation. But I do think that Marvin leaving will impact the Buckeyes just a little bit more than... It's tough. It's a tough conversation. But as good as Brock Bowers was for Georgia, he wasn't the offense. And there were moments when Marvin Harrison Jr. was the offense. Yes, Brock Bowers had his moments, especially over this last season, the Auburn game. Brock Bowers was the offense in the second half of that contest. So, yes, but Mims is getting... I hate to say it, easily replaced, right? They have so many guys on the offensive line that are going to be able to do that. So in terms of getting worse, right, and losing from the next year, offensively, I just don't think Georgia's going to be worse, and they're losing their two best weapons. Why? Carson Beck, I think, takes a step forward, and we'll get into Carson Beck a little bit more because he is one of the biggest reasons why I think Georgia is better than Ohio State. But they just have all sorts of weapons, right? So let's get into it. The transfers. I think that the transfers will help Georgia more than they'll help Ohio State. I said it. Yes, Caleb Downs will be a huge impact transfer for the Buckeyes. I do believe that. As good as Quinshon Judkins is, his best value for the Buckeyes is Travion Henderson insurance, really. Right? Those are the two best running backs in college football. Maybe two of the three best. Ollie Gordon, I think you have to throw into that conversation. At least those are producers and eye test guys that we know are really good. Well, Judkins and Henderson are not always going to be on the field at the same time. Yes, they'll rotate. Yes, I know you can have really good running back duos. Georgia knows better than anybody that you can have really good running back duos, and that can be awesome. I think they're going to have to rely on that. I don't know if they have a quarterback that can just sling it around to their weapons on the outside that are better. Ohio State's weapons would have a good day against the Georgia Bulldogs, just as they did 2 years ago. Keely Ringo and Kamari Lassiter and Malachi Starks and Javon, they didn't shut down Marvin Harrison Jr. and Mekhi Egbuka. I think that they'd have a better chance to do that now just because the guy throwing it's not the same. And they just, that's the best quarterback that they've had. Right? And he's not Justin either. And he's not JT Barrett. I think you have to go back that far. The transfers. I think that they'll be bigger impact guys for Georgia. Trevor Etienne is one of the X factors for this team, and Colby Young is one of the X factors for this team. Those are the two new faces that I think will have the biggest impact on the Georgia Bulldogs. Kirby Smart, a couple weeks ago, G-Day, accepted the, I think I just heard Caleb Williams get picked, accepted the DeAndre Swift to Trevor Etienne comparison, right? A little surprised that he just kind of allowed a media person to make a comparison and let players be compared. But he says, look, Trevor Etienne's different than what we've had. And what they've had is guys that haven't been able to stay healthy and guys that aren't super dynamic. Kenny McIntosh was. Well, guess what? Georgia won a national championship with Kenny McIntosh as their RB1. Trevor Etienne can be better than him. Georgia's offensive line is just as good. Mike Bobo's in another year in the system. Carson Beck's in another year in the system. The running game should be really good with Trevor Etienne. I think that the backs behind them will be solid. Roderick Robinson, Branson Robinson, between the three freshmen and Cash Jones, because Andrew Paul is leaving. I think they have plenty of guys in that room with Trevor Etienne being the lead back. I just think that he can be better than Kendall Moore and Dejan Edwards. Significantly, I don't know. But I do think that they got an upgrade of that position. For Ohio State, they just bolstered that position. Georgia upgraded it. And we saw what it was without it, which was Kendall Milton really coming on at the end of the year. And I don't think he's as good as Trevor Etienne. So there's my point there. Colby Young. Georgia was missing a Colby Young. And you saw it immediately at G-Day. That guy's going to matter. That guy's going to catch some touchdowns from Carson Beck. That guy's going to beat corners that just can't jump with him. And that's what you get out of Colby Young. A guy that's going to be able to go up there, get those jump balls, get those sideline catches, fight for 50-50 balls. Yes, Brock Bowers could have done that. Marcus Holmes-Jackson did it a little bit. A.D. Mitchell did it. Right? George Pickens did it, just naming some recent guys. But now they have that in addition to the rest of these weapons. Dylan Bell, Dominic Lovett. The chemistry seems to be going there between Carson Beck and these receivers. So let's get to the Carson Beck portion. Right? And he is the second biggest reason. Carson, projected Heisman frontrunner, Georgia national championship favorite, partially because of him. This is a guy that may end up being a top 5, top 1 pick in the NFL draft next year. He seems like a pro-ready quarterback, a pro-style quarterback. He's just much better than what they have up there in Columbus between Will Howard, Sayan, and Devin Brown. Carson Beck now, with a year under his belt, is just a much better option, and you expect him to be really good. Are we placing too high expectations on a guy? I don't know. He'll probably be 23 by the end of the season because this will be year 5 for him in college. This is an older guy who has now played some football for Georgia and has been around this and has seen the championships and knows what it takes to do that. I think that he's going to have good chemistry with all of the receivers by the end of fall camp, and they should be good to go for that Clemson game, in which I told you guys the other day. I think the line is too small for them, and I think the Dogs are going to destroy Clemson on August 31st. Final reason, Kirby Smart, Ryan Day, not close. Kirby Smart is the best coach in college football, and Ryan Day, if you ask Matt DeBerry, he's on fraud alert, fraud watch. I don't know. I don't think he's necessarily the best coach Ohio State's had. I think he's a downgrade. They just haven't won the big game. The biggest game that they've won under him is what? The game again, like the Rose Bowl a couple years ago, which is a good game. Don't get me wrong, but it's not a national championship. It's not the game against Michigan. He can't keep losing to those guys. This year, I think he'll get them. But Kirby Smart, you saw the difference when they went head to head. Georgia's got the best team in college football, guys. Let's just leave it at that.